Hey there, Shrees here from Pieces Calligraphy. Welcome to day 4 of my YouTober challenge. YouTober is this challenge that I am doing where I will be posting a new video every single day in the month of October. So you can just come back every single day. I can't promise what time, but I promise before the day is over, I will post a new video. And of course, what topic better than brush calligraphy? Everything here is brush calligraphy, so I'm excited to have you here. Welcome if you're new. I'd love if you'd stick around and subscribe or just check back for the next day. So today's topic is large pens versus small pens, and which should you try as a beginner? Because even though in the day 2 post of YouTober, I shared a couple of my favorite pens, I still realize that people are a little confused, or maybe they just want some guidance on what exactly to start with. And I totally get it. It's still overwhelming. Even if you have a list, it's kind of like, just tell me which one to start with. So I'm probably going to have an answer that you don't want to hear, but it really does depend. It depends on a couple of things, which I will explain to you, and then you can make your decision from there. And if hands down you absolutely cannot decide, stick around and I'll share with you my top 2 favorites for beginning. All right, so when it comes to using large brush pens, these are really great for studying and just really being able to see that watercolor effect. And so if that's something you're going for and you really want to just study, which is great for beginners, then you want to grab a large brush pen. I like to think of myself, not myself, but I like you to think about if you were a little kid learning how to write for the first time. Imagine how it would feel if you were handed a small pen and you had to worry about these fine lines right off the bat. Instead, it's really great as a little kid to use a large crayon or a large marker, because then you're not so worried about the fineness and fragileness of the pen, and instead you're just worrying about the letter forms and getting that muscle memory built. So think of a large brush pen in that way. Even though the tip is very large and it may be kind of overwhelming at first to use such a bulky pen, really if you think of it as a great way to start learning, seeing the transitions, noticing where the pressure starts to taper off and where the pressure starts to build up, then that's really what you want to go for. However, one of the hardest parts about using large pens is the fact that they are hard to handle. We're used to writing on such a smaller scale that using a large pen might be too awkward or uncomfortable at first, so I can totally understand if the large brush pen is something that you may not want to try if you feel like that's something that you may not be able to adjust to right away. So let's go to the smaller brush pen. So for your smaller brush pens, these are really great for a couple of reasons. First of all, kind of I was alluding to this with the large brush pen. They're great because they really resemble pens that we're probably more used to writing with, just regular pencils, regular ballpoint pens, and smaller things that are on the smaller scale. So for that reason, the smaller pens may be good to try out as a beginner because they are the most similar to a writing tool that you may already be used to. Also, another reason why they're great is because you can really achieve more of that hairline because they are on the smaller scale. And so that's another thing that I find some beginners just are really hung up over, that hairline. No matter what I say, even though I say to let it go, if you still are chasing that hairline, then you'll want to try to grab a smaller brush pen because then you're more likely to achieve it. However, there is something to consider when you're using the small brush pen, and this is personally why I don't like to use it to primarily teach in my in-person workshops and online courses. Because it's so small, it's really difficult to see those transitions, and it's just a little bit harder to learn and study letter forms when you're writing on such a small scale. Think of it as like when you have something very tiny and you have to just really zoom in and observe all of the little things about it. It can be difficult to see those subtle marks or those transitions. And whereas if you have a larger brush pen, you have more space and more room to sort of analyze those letters. And I hope that makes sense. And it's just something that in my gut when I teach, that I feel more confident teaching with the large brush pens, because you can just see it. It's just right there in your face. It's really large. I can really break down and dissect every stroke of the word that I'm presenting. And so with a smaller brush pen, it's really hard. I actually have to like literally zoom in on my camera, or just really hope that the student can follow on such a fine scale. All right, so let's turn around and I'm going to demo both of them for you so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. All right, so here we go with the large brush pens. I'm just going to do a couple of strokes here. Let's just go ahead and write the word brush. Pretty standard word to write. Brush. Now, as I'm writing these strokes, you'll notice that these strokes are just on such a huge scale, right? And because of that, I love teaching with these large brush pens. It's such a great way for me to dissect each letter, and you can really see where the transitions happen. But like I said, the downfall with these large pens is that you can also feel like you're not really achieving that hairline very easily. Or maybe it just is too flexible and therefore you get these shaky marks, and it can be a little discouraging sometimes when in your mind you're hoping that you can get those really smooth and unshaken strokes. So on the flip side, let me show you the smaller brush pen, obviously way smaller in scale. And I'm actually writing this here on a 10 millimeter X height. I think I would personally prefer to write a little bit smaller, like on with a 6 or 7 millimeter X height. And I purposely have my in-person workshops and my online courses right on a 10 millimeter with the smaller brush pens for the reason of seeing those transitions and being able to practice them. And this pen is actually really on the fine scale. I actually couldn't make it to the 10 millimeter X height. So you can kind of see my X height here was probably a 7 or an 8. And that just naturally happened, you guys. I really felt like it just was way too awkward to write any bigger. Okay, so you can kind of see how when I have my larger strokes, I mean, I can talk about, see, for example, here, I would have liked to bring up this entrance stroke to just be a little bit smoother, just kind of like this connection here, my entrance stroke to the next one. And you can, but you do notice that depending on the pen, this Pigma brush seemed to get the hairline pretty well. But the Tombow and the Koi, these are not really, really hairlines. They are smaller than their thick counterparts, but if you are chasing that hairline, you're not going to find it with these more flexible pens. But they are relatively thinner than the thick counterparts, so that makes them really good. Look at this kind of inconsistency with the strokes. They're just a little bit rougher and just not, maybe not as smooth. I have a little bit of shakiness over here. But overall, you can kind of see, wow, I'm really noticing the different strokes. Here's my underturn. I can see my ascending stem loop here very clearly, very easy to dissect those letters, those strokes. Now going to the smaller scale, it gets a little bit smaller. We can still see the strokes here, but it's just that much cleaner if you can agree with me. I think it kind of depends on your style and what you're going for, but the smaller pen is just easier to handle. Okay, I just feel like it's smoother, and all of these lines here, no matter which pen I was using, gets pretty much on the hairline here. Okay, so the biggest thing I would say is just that it's just smaller and closer to something that you're used to, and it gets that hairline that you probably are really looking for. So give that a try. Give both a try if you can, and sometimes you'd be surprised. You might start off liking one compared to the other, and vice versa. All right, so that was my video for today, day 4 of YouTober. I really hope you enjoyed it. I had a good time sharing this with you. I feel like this is a question I get all the time on which pen to start with, why are the larger pens so difficult to manage, or some people tell me, I really love the large pens, why would I buy a small pen? And so I hope this video helped you to evaluate the differences between them both so you can make your own decision. Like I promised you, I would tell you my ultimate favorite too, and I would have to say that the Tombow Dual Brush Pen is my ultimate favorite large pen to start with. It's just so juicy. It's just really big and really great to teach with. And then for the smaller brush pen, I'm gonna have to pick the Pentel Sign Pen. This is just such a dependable small pen. I have it always in my purse. It's just really great to pull out and use. It doesn't really just fray. It's so dependable. I really love this pen. So again, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I will see you tomorrow for day 5 of YouTober. I'm excited to hear from you guys. I really do read all of your comments down below. I try to respond when I can, but just know, please, I appreciate every comment. So with that said, leave a comment down below. What do you prefer? Do you prefer the large brush pens or the smaller brush pens? Or maybe you love them both. It doesn't matter. I just would love to hear from you. Let me know what you think down below, and I will see you guys next time here. That's all today, so bye. I realize I can't do numbers forever. I'm gonna run out of fingers. Anyway, okay.